very good evening and welcome to yet another edition of Times Exclusive, airing tonight on Times Network. My name is Brian Banda and thanking you for joining us in your homes, on your phones, wherever you are tonight. The program is coming to you courtesy of Rainbow Paints.
Wow, I think K-Pitch looks amazing on that wall.
The electric blue cuts it for me.
Come on, look at the tango, candy pink, burnt orange, okay, sweet lime.
Do you like what you see? You can dream it and live it. Download your Rainbow app today and begin the magic of transforming your home into a fabulous space. Rainbow Paints. Peace of mind. Part of the deal.
My guest tonight is Mr. Sangwani Hara, Chairman for Tea Association of Malawi. Mr. Hara, welcome into the program tonight. Good evening. We are here to talk about issues to do with tea. First of all, how are we doing in as far as tea production is concerned?
Tea production for last year was about 50 million kilograms.
50 million kilograms.
Yes. And this year we have had a slow start to the season. As you know, rains came very late and we are now running behind last year. We hope that the last 3 months will be good and hopefully we can catch up on production.
So this year we haven't yet planted, but what's your outlook?
So tea is a perennial crop, so we don't plant per se, so tea is already on the ground.
Yeah.
So depending on the rain, if rains come on time, then it regenerates and produces the tea leaves that we use for producing what we call made tea.
Yeah. So what is your product? How are you envisaging that?
We
you
think
get?
we'll hit around between 45 to 47 million kilograms.
That's below last year.
It will be below last year.
Why?
Because we had a slow start to the season. Ordinarily, rains come around October, November. So when it comes to January, the tea will have started regenerating and growing.
Yeah.
But last year, rains came right at the end of last year. So January was very low in terms of production because rains had just come. And growth really started around February, from mid-February onwards.
And how long do you need to replace the plants?
So once tea is on the ground,
Yeah.
it takes up to 50 years, sometimes more.
50 years?
Yes.
Okay.
Before
Yeah.
you replant.
Okay.
So economically, after 50 years, you need to replant.
So probably the ones that we see right now, they haven't been replaced for over 50 years.
Yeah. So in Malawi, the replanting program that we have carried out so far is only 40%.
Okay.
So more than about 60% of our plantation is actually older than 50 years.
Who owns tea?
So there are various companies
Yeah.
within the tea industry. The biggest company is called Eastern Produce Malawi.
Okay.
It has estates in Choro and Mulanje. Then the second biggest is called the Rugeri Group. It owns Rugeri and Chima Estates. Then the third biggest group is called Danseri. It owns Kawarazi and Makandi Tea Estates. Between the three of them, they produce about 80% of Malawi's total production. The other smaller ones are Satemwa, Kamfozi.
Satemwa is in a group of smaller ones?
Yes.
Okay.
Kamfozi,
Yeah.
Namingomba Tea Estates, and Steko. And the last one is Zoa.
So do we have, these are all foreign companies?
Not everything is foreign. So, for instance, Steko is owned by the Muri Group of companies.
Yeah.
So, Muri, as you know, is local. Satema, although the name sounds English, I believe these are Malawi passport holders, so I presume they're also local. So, Satema and Zoa. And then the Kamfozi Group, these are also local people.
And they all belong to the Tea Association?
Correct.
Okay. What is the role now of a Tea Association?
So the Tea Association is there to foster common policy for development amongst the members.
Yeah.
So it also forms an advocacy group. If we have issues of common interest that we need to talk to government about, we do that. And we also roll out common policies to ensure that there are standards within the industry that we comply with. So, for instance, we have gender equality and sexual discrimination policy. We set the minimum standards which everybody must comply with. We also set minimum standards on issues like protective clothing, minimum wages, and issues like that.
Are you happy with how the tea industry is faring? Is it raking in the much needed forex?
In terms of forex, yes, we're very happy in terms of what the industry is doing. As you might be aware, some of our members are also planting other crops as a way of diversification. So the tea producers are actually also the biggest macadamia producers.
Okay.
So apart from tea, our members also grow other crops like macadamia and like coffee as well. So yes, they're contributing immensely in terms of the economic growth.
The tea is planted here.
Yes.
Is it being processed here?
Correct. So what we harvest from the tea fields is called green leaf. So green leaf is then taken to the factories, and within 24 hours has to be processed into a product called made tea.
Made
tea?
Okay.
Yeah. So it is a made tea that we sell.
Okay.
Yeah. So we then sell it on the auction, and we also sell it privately to various companies that do the blending and packaging. So the final product that we see is actually made tea that has been packed.
But the value addition, I'm talking about the value addition, we are not doing.
So
is the tea that I'm drinking in a restaurant, a hotel,
so
processed here?
Yes. So the tea, if it's a local brand, is processed here. Is also packed here.
Okay.
So there are two levels of value addition.
Okay.
The first one is where we convert the green leaf into made tea. So that's a value addition process.
Okay.
So yes, all of that takes place here. The second one is when tea is bought, it is then packed into packets, consumer packets.
Okay.
That's the second level of value addition.
Yeah.
So we have local companies like Chombe, Satema, and others that do local packaging into consumer packets. So yes, we have two levels of.
But you can also sell the made tea.
You can also sell the made tea in bulk.
Okay.
So at the auction, we sell made tea in bulk, and sometimes we also export made tea in bulk.
Now, it looks like the way tea is sold is not the way we do with tobacco.
So there are similarities.
Is that a fair view of looking at it?
Yes. Yes and no.
Okay.
So, yes, What? The similarities are like tobacco,
Yeah.
which they also call processed leaf,
Yeah.
is sold in back at the auction. We also sell tea in 50 kilogram bales, but it is made tea.
Okay.
Okay?
Yeah.
So there's a similarity there.
Yeah.
But how the auction is conducted is different.
Than tobacco.
Yes.
Yeah.
In tobacco, you have to lay the bales. People have to see the tobacco
Yeah.
that is being sold.
Yeah.
In tea, which is, we call it a gentleman's trade.
A gentleman's trade.
Yes.
Okay.
You don't see the tea bales in the auction.
Okay.
We send tea samples through the brokers to the buyers.
Okay.
So once we have produced made tea,
Yeah.
we pack it. So from each packet, we collect samples and then send those samples to the buyers. So the buyers will test the tea before the auction takes place. And we attach an invoice number to each sample that we send. So when the auction comes up, so for instance, Makandi, the factory mark is called Chisunga. So when Chisunga tea comes up in the auction, they will call Chisunga invoice number 15.
Okay.
It's BP grade. So all the buyers know they will have tested that tea.
Okay. Prior to the auctioning.
Correct.
Okay.
So they will have valued the tea, and the broker will also have valued the tea, and it starts the auction. So the auctioning is done by the broker.
Okay.
He brokers between the producer
Yeah.
and the buyer.
Yeah.
So he puts in a fair value on the tea. So for instance, he'll be saying, I'm selling Chisunga invoice number 21. I'm starting at $1.20.
Yeah.
And then the bidding.
So the buyer would have already tested
Correct.
how this tea is like.
Correct.
But who are these? Who are these buyers?
So we have a number of buyers,
Yeah.
international and local, that are registered.
Okay.
So there's an association of buyers called the merchants.
Okay.
The biggest one, I think, is Van Rees. Then we have James Finlay, and we have Zona, we have Chombe, because Chombe also buys tea on the auction,
Okay.
and other local ones. So they go on the auction, and then they start bidding on the tea.
But why should the companies sell this tea through the brokers? Can they sell direct to the
So
buyers?
it is possible to sell direct.
Yeah.
But in terms of the auction setup worldwide, you sell through the brokers because somebody has to start the bidding. So the bidding has to be started by somebody who is independent, but who also understands the tea trade. So he values the tea and thinks, given the prevailing market conditions, I think that the value of this tea is so much.
So company A sends its 3 kg to be tested by the brokers.
Correct.
On behalf of the buyers.
Correct.
Now the broker says this is very good tea.
Correct.
And he confirms with the buyer,
Correct.
and the buyer says let's proceed and buy it.
Correct.
Based on what they have tested.
Correct. So just like in tobacco, you
Yeah.
have the people who are called starters. The starter is the person that will value the tobacco.
Okay.
And says, I'm starting at this price. So that in tea is done by the brokers.
Now, what if what the buyer has tested is now different to what is in the actual 50 kg bag?
Okay, so your question is it possible that somebody sends a sample which is different to the actual package?
Yeah.
If that happens, then that producer will have killed his trade. Because if that's called cheating. If you have cheated, then nobody will buy your tea ever again. And that's a serious risk that no producer would be willing to take. Because
So
then
what
you'll
you
sell it.
test is what you get.
Correct.
Has there been a situation where...
There have been slight differences and very rare circumstances, and but people have been able to resolve. So maybe it is the way that the sampling was done. But outright differences, no. You've never come across those issues. Because like I said, then you're doomed. If a producer did that, they would be doomed. No buyer would ever want to buy their tea.
And when is the setting period?
So the setting period, we have two main seasons.
Okay.
We have the main season, which starts in October now,
Yeah.
up to end of June. So every Wednesday from 8 o'clock, the auction takes place at Ginary Corner at the Tea Association offices. We have an auction room there.
And all these companies, they come there?
Yes.
Okay.
But it's actually open to the public as well.
You can come and...
Yes, please.
okay, but as you said, it's a gentleman's trade.
Yeah, so you'll never see the tea bells
Okay.
inside the room.
Okay.
Because of this understanding
Okay.
within the tea trade that you don't have to show the tea bells. What you profess you are selling is exactly the product you are selling.
And most of the companies that you have talked about, they sound foreign.
Yes. Well, yes. Some are foreign, some are local.
Do you think we are getting value for money in as far as tea is concerned? How much is tea bringing in the country?
So there are two levels.
Yeah.
The first level is the producer level.
Okay.
Okay. We represent the producers.
Yeah.
So when we sell tea in the auction, the buyers take it. So sometimes a buyer will have an order which he needs to fulfill by creating blends.
Yeah.
So it could be a blend of Chisonga tea
Okay.
and another blend of Eastern produce tea. Okay. So, but at our level, producer level, before blending takes place by the buyers for the export, we're talking at about 100 to 120 million tea only dollars a year.
Okay.
But plus other products, macadamia nuts and others, we are more than 150 million dollars worth of industry.
So if you buy the tea at the auction,
Yes.
do you have a time frame where the producer has to send to the buyer?
When the tea is sold
Yeah.
and auctioned,
Yeah.
it has to be based at a warehouse in Blanca.
Oh, I see.
Yes.
Okay. And these are your warehouses?
Well, no, these are independent SDV.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Manica.
Okay.
Warehouses.
Yeah.
So the tea has to be sitting in a warehouse in Blanta.
Okay.
As soon as the auction takes place, the tea is sold. The producer will issue what is called a reassignment voucher, which is a voucher of title.
Yeah.
The buyer then takes that voucher to the warehouse to reclaim his tea.
And do you have time frame for that?
Well, it has to be so. Okay, now the buyer, when he buys the tea in the auction,
Yeah.
the rules, we call it a prompt. Within 2 weeks, he's supposed to pay for the tea. So ordinarily, before he collects the tea, he must pay for it. So in that sense, within 2 weeks, the tea or the transfer of title must happen within that 2 weeks.
We'll take a short break.
Thank you.
We'll be back with you in a moment. In case you're just joining us, this is Times exclusive, airing on Times Network. We are talking to the chairman of the Tea Association of Malawi. We'll take a short break. We'll be back with you in a moment.
Wow. I think K-Pitch looks amazing on the door.
The electric blue calls it for me.
Come on. Look at the tango, candy pink, burnt orange, okay, sweet lime.
Do you like what you see? You can dream it and live it. Download your Rainbow app today and begin the magic of transforming your home into a fabulous space. Rainbow Paints. Peace of mind. Part of the deal.
Welcome back to the other half of the program. I'm joined by Mr. Sangwani Hara. He's the chairperson for the Tea Association of Malawi. We're having a great conversation here on issues to do with tea. Now, moving on, we have heard of sexual abuse or allegations in the tea industry. There is actually a case that happened in the UK, and over £3 million was given as compensation for women who were sexually abused in the tea estates in Malawi. I'm talking to the most senior person in as far as the tea industry is concerned. You're the chairman of the Tea Association of Malawi.
Yes.
Are you aware of these allegations?
Yes, we were aware of these allegations. It is two of our members whose parent companies are in the United Kingdom. It is alleged that a certain legal house in the UK sued the parent company or parent companies in United Kingdom on behalf of Malawian tea workers. And that £3 million was paid by one of the companies as a way of settlement for these cases. Now, we understand as well, because we've talked to our members, that the way the settlement was done was that the lawyers in UK demanded privacy and confidentiality, so no details were issued. So the £3 million just came out in the press. The details of the women that were alleged to have been abused are not known. The details of the compensation that was paid to the women in Malawi was also, the details are also not known. Malawi government actually, Minister of Labor, wanted to find out the details. That's the same information that has also been given to them. We tried through the British High Commissioner in Malawi to see if details could be provided from the UK. Unfortunately, that has not been possible because of the confidentiality around those cases. So yes, we are aware, but we have no details. So as far as we are concerned, that's a position, it's an allegation. And unfortunately,
but two of your companies, they paid.
No, these are the parent companies.
Okay,
of the two of the companies.
In the UK?
Yes.
They paid?
Yes, and part of the settlement
Yeah.
was that there must be confidentiality. No details must be given.
Do you think it's fair, Mr. Chairman?
You're asking about my personal opinion?
Yes.
My personal opinion is no. I don't think it is fair, but I suppose if that's the law in the UK, that's what it is. Confidentiality could be part of the settlement, and this is what it was. From my perspective, we would have loved to find out who those women are, if indeed they were working for those tea estates, and if how much they have received by way of compensation. Do they also need social support, psychological support in terms of the abuse? Because we also have a policy, we need to learn what happened for us to be able to revise the policy if need be.
Yeah.
But we don't have any details at all. So unfortunately, we can't learn.
Are you therefore telling us that there hasn't been any sexual abuse in the tea industry?
What I'm saying to you is there's been a settlement or alleged settlement based on these allegations and agreement that was made in the UK.
Yeah, but how can a company pay when because hearing you tonight talk, it looks like there is no evidence.
I believe
they didn't show you the women that are involved in this.
That's
thing.
correct.
Yeah.
They didn't show us the women.
Yeah.
We don't know how much the women actually received for the alleged abuses. We don't know the details of the abuse. We don't even know which divisions of the states they worked for. So, but there was a settlement in the UK. And like I said, also Malawi government, through the Minister of Labour also, and Minister of Gender, that have been wanting to find out details so that they have records about what transpired.
Do you agree, as the chairman of the Tea Association Malawi, of this claim?
So we understand that the reason that these lawyers gave for taking the cases to UK is that they did not believe that the women would receive fair justice here in Malawi. So and that the UK is a better place for delivery of that justice. Now, our position has been very clear. Malawi has a very robust and efficient and a fair justice system. Specifically talking about issues of sexual harassment, you know it is on record. One international construction company was taken to court over sexual abuses, and that justice was delivered here in Malawi. So we believe that if these cases were also taken to the courts here in Malawi, justice would have been properly delivered.
And why are they taking these cases to the UK?
Your guess is as good as mine.
The offences, the alleged offences,
Took place
here?
And we have a judicial system which can deal with those cases.
Yeah. Why the UK?
Well, I would be speculating, but in terms of that speculation, your guess is as good as mine.
I don't have any guess. I don't have any guess.
The money has been paid, no details have been given. So it's part of the settlement.
Do you know
secrecy.
of any woman who has received this part of the £3 million?
No,
Yeah.
we don't know of actual women that have received the money. Recently, there was a press report that some of the women who received these settlements are facing social problems because of the way that payment was made. Like I said, they were not supposed to disclose anything at all. So even their village mates don't know that they have received this settlement. And all of a sudden, these women in these villages have money, and their village mates are wondering where they got the money from. So actually, there's an allegation that some of them think that this is mysterious money, perhaps satanic, and some of them have been chased from their villages. So these are some of the unintended consequences of such settlements. And I don't know, like I said, how much has been given. If it's a lot of money, have they also been given some kind of training in terms of how perhaps they can productively use that money? We have no details at all.
What about the policy to do with sexual harassment? As Tea Association, do you have one that these estates
We do.
should abide by?
We have a very robust policy on sexual harassment. It's called Gender Equality and Sexual Discrimination Policy. We implemented it in 2017 as part of the common policy agenda within the industry. Prior to that, we left it up to individual companies to devise and implement sexual harassment policies as best they could. But since now sexual harassment is a major global issue, we thought that that must now come into the arena of common policy within the industry. So we have a policy, we have had a policy since 2017, which sets out the minimum policy that must be implemented by all our members. Others have done more than the minimum, but that minimum is very robust. What we did in terms of setting out that policy was we did a situational analysis. We engaged a consultant to advise us in terms of what issues were there relating to gender equality, sexual discrimination, and gender-based violence. So there was a report that came out, and then together with the issues that were identified, we also said what are the common issues that must be included in such a policy. So those matters, plus the results of the survey, informed our gender policy. So we have a very robust one.
Are you therefore saying that there is no any harassment taking place in these estates? I wanted to get your thoughts as we finish on this discussion.
Okay, so what I'm saying is we have a policy in place.
Yeah.
People have been trained.
Yeah.
Workers have been made aware. We have 60,000 employees. We're the second largest employer after government. Do I guarantee that we'll never have sexual harassment cases? No, I cannot guarantee. It's the same way UK or America. These are some of the countries that are most industrialized countries on the planet. Do they have sexual harassment issues in those countries? The answer is yes, they do. Are those countries bad in the sense that they don't have laws which do not prevent sexual harassment policies? They do. So similarly, we do have a policy, but we cannot guarantee that sexual harassment will never take place. But what we are saying, and the good thing about the policy is, if anybody is abused, they know what to do, where to report, and what to accept and what not to accept as sexual harassment. Also, all employees have been notified and sensitized that if they do certain acts, those will be considered an infringement of the policy, and serious punishment will be meted out on them. Have people complained? Yes. We have had cases where women have complained, not only women, we have also had the cases of women abusing men that have come through.
Just as it happens everywhere.
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
So yes, it's a robust policy, and we're happy that it is working. Cases are being reported.
Do you think the lawyers in the UK have exaggerated this matter?
But our view, like I said, is if at all these allegations were true, the cases should have been prosecuted here in Malawi, number one. Number two, details of the women who are abused should have been given. Number three, to be fair to everybody, we should also have known how much compensation out of the money that was paid went to the actual women who were abused. But that's not the case. So my personal view is it's not fair.
Another challenge that has faced the tea industry is the issue of child labor.
Yes.
What are you doing also to contain this malpractice?
So child labor, as far as we're concerned as an industry, it's a vice that is not acceptable, and it's not allowed within the industry. So we have a policy that deals with the issue of child labor. We do not employ within the tea sector anybody who is below 18 years of age. Within our factories, we do not employ anybody who is below 21 years of age to handle any machinery. Prior to the introduction of national IDs, it was problematic in terms of really identifying and proving the age. But right now, as you know, with the national IDs, we do not employ anybody without a national ID, which also proves the age limits that I've talked about.
You know, child rights campaigners have taken on Malawi, pushing for a ban, tobacco and tea, because they are saying that you're using child labor. When you hear of these things, how do you feel, Mr. Chairman?
We feel very aggrieved, and actually what we did was we engaged the International Labour Organization to come and have a look at us, okay, to clear those misconceptions. So
There are misconceptions.
yes,
Okay.
absolutely.
Okay.
So the International Labour Organization conducted a study to look at these allegations. They came out and were very clear. There is no evidence of child labor on the commercial estates. There is a perception of children being used on smallholder tea plots, on the family plots. There was only a perception. So when they came back to us, we said there's an arrangement within the smallholder subsector where families have to pass on skills to the children. But in terms of the policy, nobody who is below 18 years of age should be involved on the tea plots, even on family tea plots. If anybody is going to school and that's above 18, they should also not be involved on the tea plots whilst schools are on. So that's a policy that we have. So following this engagement of the International Labour Organization, we said, okay, even that perception needs to be dealt with.
Yeah.
Okay. So we have engaged in a project called Excel.
Okay.
Okay. So we are training the smallholders, sensitizing them about these perceptions, because smallholders are also part of our tea value chain. That child labor is not allowed. We have even engaged the communities where smallholder tea plots are. So the village heads have also now been sensitized in case they see or in case they hear about child labor being involved on the smallholder tea plots, they should report. We have also, through this project, formed monitoring committees which randomly go and just for spot checks on the smallholder tea plots. The committee comprises district labor officers, district agriculture officers, and our tea association secretariat members. So they do go out and have a checklist as evidence of what I've done in terms of the investigation.
It was happening, but you have put it under control. Is that what I'm getting from you?
No, I'm saying there was a perception.
It was a perception.
On the smallholder tea plots.
Okay.
But it was not. Even international labor organizations, international labor, they did not find any evidence.
Okay.
But they said there was a perception, I think from people that they interviewed. There was a perception. But that perception was a perception. And
it still remains a perception until today.
Well, I must say the project is about to end now.
Yeah.
So one of the things again is there will be a consultant that will go around to carry out a study.
Yeah.
Ministry of Labour itself has done 2 studies already, and they're quite happy with what I've seen. There's no child labour access. They were very pleased when they reported back to us that even the village heads who are not necessarily involved in the smallholder tea production are aware of this project and what shouldn't be happening.
We don't have much time. You talked about tea raking in $150, $180 million. Do these money come to Malawi?
So there are 2 parts.
Yeah.
In terms of the auction, whatever happens in the auction within 2 weeks, the money must be in the banks.
Malawi banks?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
So that's easy.
Yeah.
You can check with the banks.
Yeah.
The authorized dealer banks. For any private sales, Reserve Bank runs a system. Previously, it used to be called the CD1 form system.
Yeah.
So for you to be able to export the tea through the borders, Malawi Revenue Authority and Reserve Bank monitor what you are exporting.
Okay.
So there's a value to that export. Within 90 days of exporting, the money must come back.
Okay.
And the system in the banks will indicate if the money has come back or not.
Okay.
So you have to acquit. So when the forex comes back, you receive the proceeds, you need to acquit that invoice. So MRIO clears and Reserve Bank also clears. As far as we are concerned, the tea export or macadamia exports are all up to date. As a matter of fact, yesterday we had an interactive meeting, dialogue meeting between government and the tea industry. Reserve Bank was at the meeting. They confirmed at the meeting that there's no backlog on exports. So money does come back. There's nothing.
We are facing challenges with tobacco, as you know. Do you think tea might replace tobacco in foreign earnings?
So tobacco is a huge foreign exchange earner for this country.
Yeah.
During the peak, it used to be over 300, close to $400 million.
Yeah.
I mentioned 150, 180.
Yeah.
You see, we're about 50%
Yeah.
of that.
Yeah.
The issues within the tea sector relate to expansion.
Okay.
Okay. So land is limited. For
Yeah.
us to grow more tea,
Yeah.
we need suitable land where there's high rainfall and appropriate climatic conditions. So that, at the moment, is limited. As we know, there's pressure for land in Choro and Mulanje and perhaps also in Katabe. So land is limited. So from that point, expansion will be limited. However, within the tea sector, whatever land is available,
Yeah.
we're looking at tea itself, and we're also looking at possible replacement on the peripheral areas where if macadamia can do better than tea, we're planting macadamia. So that's what we're doing, tea substitution and also consolidating tea. We're replanting some of the old clones with the new clones which are better yielding, so there will be increases from increased yielding. Then we're also working with the smallholders. Smallholders have pockets of land where they can plant more land to tea. So that we are doing.
What would be your final thought for tonight?
So the final thought for tonight is the tea industry is out there, has been out there,
Yeah.
playing its role, playing its national role, I would say. There have been negative allegations, particularly with things like sexual harassment and things.
Yeah.
These are damaging, not only to the tea industry, they'll be damaging to the nation as well. I have heard allegations by some people, including some journalists, who really play out these negative stories in the press. We ought to be a little bit more responsible. If indeed the issues come, talk to us. We will,
Just like we have done.
just like we have done.
Yeah.
We will talk about them. We will admit if there are issues. We will rectify them. But just creating negative stories for the sake of it is not helpful.
Mr. Hara, quite interesting hearing you talk tonight. We wish we had more time. Once again, thank you very much for finding time to sit down with us for this interview. We really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
Well, on that note, we conclude this week's edition of Times Exclusive. I was talking to Mr. Hara, who is the chairperson for the Tea Association of Malawi. My name is Brian Banda, from all of us here in the capital, Lilongwe. Thanking you for watching us tonight, and goodbye.